We so often talk about living in the moment, but how many of us really meet life in the present? Not just hour by hour, but second by second, moment by moment. Welcome to Series 3 of Dream Space with me, Gemma Cairney from Factory International. I'm a broadcaster, a creator and art lover, and I've always been curious about what the art we make says about the dreams that we have. Dreaming says so much about who we want to be in the world, how we want it to be for us in reflective environment. By making time to dream in our waking lives and finding ways beyond language to communicate those dreams, we're giving ourselves space to imagine a better world. I'm also interested in how the actual process of making art, music, and other creative pursuits actually shape our dreams. We've already had 2 celestial, sublime series capturing the dream spaces of DJ Paulette, S. Devlin, Jen Nakuru, Scotty, Zoe Ashton, Denez Smith, David Hoyle, Maxine Peake, and so many more. It's been mind-blowing for me to be this guide to get into the liminal spaces of hearts and minds, and they're all out there, so if you want to jump and dive right in, then you can have a listen. After you've listened to this episode, they're waiting for you. In this episode, we're going to be exploring how we can detach from the expectations and pressures of time.
I want to come from a creative place of abundance rather than a place of hurried lack or this is the timeline, so it must run. Says who? Says who?
Nubya Garcia is a saxophonist, composer and band leader whose music has taken her all over the world. A graduate of Trinity Laban Conservatoire and alumni of the jazz development program Tomorrow's Warriors. Nubya has won numerous awards, and her album Source was shortlisted for the prestigious Mercury Music Prize in 2021. Her second album, Odyssey, was released last year. Let's get into Nubya's dream space. Nubya.
Hello.
Hello.
Hiya.
If I could be so intimate with this question and ask you how you dream, do you have sound and music in your dreams?
I do, sometimes. I do. Sometimes they take the form of like, it's a gig that you're thinking about, or it's a gig that you've just done, you're kind of like reliving a moment. Sometimes it's you're like reliving a gig that meant something to you as you in the audience, as me in the audience rather. And then sometimes it's like kind of like scenes from a film where you have music scoring the background, and that kind of also connects to like the way that I write. Sometimes I'll like write a story, and you know, that's I guess like kind of almost building a treatment as you would for a film, and you're like, the storyboard is there and you're like, well, what would I want in this scene? And so it kind of comes up like that, if that makes sense. But I think a lot of the time there's no music, it's just life. You know.
Okay.
And the weird and wonderful, you know, it's kind of like that's what comes to mind first.
The weird and the wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you live in the real world in a way that is realistic? Like, do you feel present and in kind of moment by moment physically, or do you sometimes find yourself having your head in the clouds and in a dream space physically anyway?
I think half and half. Like, I really enjoy the choosing to like be somewhere else, like daydreaming. That like makes me super happy because it feels like, well, it's limitless. I think that's the beauty of dreams and dreaming and dream spaces. When you get to daydream or like have these limitless possibilities when you're in quote unquote reality, it's kind of the best of both worlds. And also, I guess it kind of challenges what you believe can be done or you can do, even though your like 2 feet are firmly on the ground.
And I think Someone like yourself who is writing, creating, making music, and also traveling with it, I find place and environment really interesting because there's like a resonance or a vibration to moving through time, going across seas to places to present your work and make your work. In some ways, that does sometimes feel quite quantum and dreamy in its sensibility.
It is. If I think about myself, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, these are my wildest dreams. And it's easy when you like grow and grow to forget where you began. And I think it's really important to know that the next 15 years and the next 20 years are going to be just as like fantastical if you let yourself believe in the possibility of your creativity and where that can go. And me at 33 now knows that, you know, all the ideas that I've had about music or the ideas that I've had about wanting to play music in a place or a particular venue or to this group of people or welcoming lots of different people into the spaces of my gigs, those are like the dreams.
How do I enter this portal of Nubya Garcia's dream space?
You let go. It's as easy as that.
I like it already.
You let go.
How does it sound? And is there an improvisational level, as that is such a gift of yours?
It's hard to say how it sounds because, you know, I think there's this thing in like when I was kind of learning to improvise as a teenager, you know, you're playing with a band and it was coming up to your solo and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and that and that and that. And then none of those things would happen. And you do something else completely different. And I think there's real beauty in gathering your skills in your practice time, but also letting go and responding to the people that you have around you on stage or even in the audience to lead where your through composition, i.e. improvisation, takes you. It would wholeheartedly be responding to the energies and paths laid out. Whether that be harmonically or rhythmically or like just energetically or whatever it may be, you're not an island when you're creating, or I choose not to be. So if there are colors in the space or smells or, you know, memories or whatever it is that I'm playing about and for and to, those are the things that kind of cause me to respond with whatever I'm going to be playing. So I hope it would sound like a conversation, connection, and creative freedom.
I love that this idea of improvisation in your dream space actually are tools for a liberation in some ways, because when we're not kind of seeking that over control, that exact understanding as to what something might be like in the future or to come, but being so open to the agility of your collaborators, your audience, us listening, me guiding, intrigued, offering our own energies or thoughts and dreams into this dream space, and it becomes almost like a response that's enjoyed, feels really exciting in terms of potential.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. I agree. I think it's really interesting when you think about how you absorb and enjoy someone else's creativity or art, and therefore how do you respond to it, and what does that even look like or mean? Like it could be movement, it could be you're responding with music or whatever it may be, you're singing back, or you're like, I really want to paint, or do you know what I mean? I don't want to limit the possibilities of how we choose to interact with each other. That's what it means to be human and creative. It's a really important thing to learn. And what's interesting is like kids have it inherently in their being, and I think it's really interesting that we get so self-aware and so serious as adults, and we're all guilty of it. It's like, it's cause and effect. Do you know what I mean? Life is life. But I really think that I've witnessed, and I'm blessed and grateful because my life, my work, my journey is within creativity. I get to bring this dream space out whenever I want, you know, and I don't take that for granted, but I do understand that not everybody has those outlets or understand how important they are. So I kind of really enjoy the fact that, you know, doing my gigs or making my music or bringing my album to different places, and the music that is being played in my life at the moment is calling for other people to let that side of themselves out. Like, I think it's so important, even just like gathering in a space. It's so important to have those little pockets and make them bigger pockets. So it is in your life, and I think it just takes the serious away, which is what I would choose.
It's just making me feel so like delicious on the inside, because I really crave this sense of freedom and flow all the time. And I think that it's so generous to be able to offer that to others in a hyper individualized world and society. Even the idea that in this dream space we physically can move forward and coddle together whilst you respond to the energetics with the improvisation of your form and sound. There's a Wayne Shorter quote that says, "We need to get to a place where you're fearlessly attempting to negotiate the unknown and incorporate the act of improvisation in life." The improvisatorial way is a much more exciting one than is scripted. And would you agree?
That's so beautiful. Wayne Shorter is one of my favorite musicians and composers, and just beings. Like, I really felt that quote in my soul, because I couldn't have said it any better. I don't know how many other people could have, but I think it's a very beautiful way of putting it. You know, this is the goal, to be fearless in your conversation and your moving forward through this choice of whatever creative outlet you've got or chosen or are learning, or, you know, has chosen you, whatever it may be. So yeah, I really resonate with that.
And do you think that the sonic experience, particularly when live, does transcend language? With the amount of travel that you've done and played in so many different spaces where people's language may differ from our English language, can you still feel a resonance?
Yeah, 100%. As you were saying that, I was like, I don't know why, but I just started thinking of the universal languages that we have. People think and say that music is the only one. Like, I could go to anywhere in the world and play and have a connection and find our way, and it would be in harmony, and whether that be melodical or rhythmical, like, we would meet if you wanted to, you know, like if you were like, we're in this space together. And I've had that experience when we were in Ethiopia, you know, and met so many musicians that we just started playing. We didn't speak each other's languages, but it was incredible. It was very, very beautiful. another one of those universal languages, or one that I believe for me, is food. I think another one is dance. I think another one is your hospitality and your kindness. I think there's lots of different ones that people don't really think are universal languages, but you would respond to them without the use of language. That's what a universal language means to me. It's no barriers.
What ingredients might you have there in this dream space if we are going beyond form and improvising with sound, colour and vibe? Perhaps there is also loads of amazing ingredients for you to freestyle some delicious food.
I mean, I don't think you've got a party, without food, and it's sounding like my dream space is like a various stages of a party, do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be a raucous party, it can just be like existing in community in the space, and also having places where you can have time away from that should you choose. But I think food wise, I don't know, there's so many amazing foods and dishes and, you know, cultures in the world. I think what's interesting that just like flew into my brain was, I always ask people, like, if you could have 5 superpowers, what would they be? One of mine is always, I would like to be able to cook any dish or any cuisine like a grandmother, like someone who's been making it for 75 years, you know, maybe
you're making me hungry.
They were like, I'm sorry. But like that's that one of life's greatest skills. Think of all the love, all the lessons, all the learning, all the what they learned from their grandma. Like that's history. That's like it's beautiful oral tradition. It's remembrance of, you know, people changing it along the way and adding their little flavor. That's a history book right there, but better. So I don't know what I would have in my dream space, but it would definitely be a lot of different food that means something to me, you know, like food from my cultures. It would be food that I've had around the world that I've like deeply, deeply loved and enjoyed, and flavors that I've never had before. So it would be a real mix, but it would work. You know how some people are like, oh, you can't have this with this. I'd be like, whatever, you can have whatever you want. It's your choice.
That's why I love the idea of there just being ingredients. And it also, I think, is probably something in my memory of us being in Ethiopia together, where Nubya and I made a radio program about cultural exchange and Ethio jazz, and it was beautiful. And again, the food culture was so integrated into everyday experience and music culture. Even when we were in places of the night that were late, there was honey wine. Yeah,
there was always food, you know.
And you shared, like you're sharing it on a huge pancake.
Yeah, injera is one of my favorite things. We're sharing, like, it, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes, because, you know, as you mentioned, we live in an individualistic time and society in some ways. Not everywhere is like that, but the act of sitting around a plate and you're all eating from the same plate, you're actually conversing and sharing and spending time with each other and on the same level, you know, you're all eating. And I think there's nothing more special than sharing food and breaking bread with people.
Breaking bread and also listening to sounds. It feels so alive. The more we think it, the more we're ready to practice in an embodied way within community where it's safe and we're able to be courageous and improvisational, the more it can actually just happen, which I love as well.
I think it's also choosing it. I think a lot of people, when I speak to them, they've said like, oh, I wish I was creative, or I played this, or I used to do this and then I stopped. And I always say, well, it's never like, yeah, you stopped. It doesn't mean that you have to stop forever. Like, we all crave that connection to releasing And a beautiful way to do that is to make music, play music, sing with other people, sing by yourself. Like, how many people sing in the shower? How many people, sing with their friends in a choir or at church or wherever it may be? It releases something in your body. Like, I don't know the science because I'm not a scientist, but it's a real thing. And there have been so many studies on it. It's amazing when I see people in front of me singing along to the melodies that I've written. Like, that's a deep connection. You have recalled something that I made and I never thought would have that kind of exchange, but like, I love it. And I think when you are called to it, you should respond to it and like let yourself go. I think I met someone on the tour in America that was like, oh, I nearly cried, but I didn't want to let myself go. And I was like, you should let go, whatever that looks like or means to you. Not that I'm saying like you have to cry. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying like be with whatever is coming up if you feel safe to do so, and engage in the art of letting go of your walls, your kind of, I'm not going to show any emotion. Like, we're in an emotional time. It's all right. Making something is an emotional practice. It's important for the human psyche and physicality to engage in releasing that emotional whatever.
Would there be other things in this beautiful hypnotic space? Can I perhaps decide that I'm going to try banging a drum with a tambourine? I don't know. I'm not an instrument player myself, but I'm feeling inspired. I've done some roaring, I've eaten, and I want to play something, but I don't want to make too much of a fool out of myself. So what can I grab?
But this is it. You can't make a fool out of yourself. It's a dream space. Like, everything is there for you to play, join in. Like, there will be a bunch of different instruments. There would be like a place to gather. There would be like I want it to feel like a kind of art corner. So maybe it's music, maybe it's painting, maybe it's making a collage, maybe it's making a sculpture, maybe it's something that gets your attention and you're like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to play, here's a bunch of stickers. I want to make a shape. Here's a puzzle. I want to make a puzzle. Like, it's whatever. It ignites something in you to make something. So yes, the tambourine is there and the drum is there.
I'm ready. It's so playful.
Yeah, we should play.
I like how there are connections to our inner child, and you mentioned how free a child is. I mean, since we last saw each other, I've had a baby. I had a baby in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And her purity and unabashed joy for each and every moment is astonishing every time you spot it.
Yeah.
Like, she will like scream in glee until her face is red just as she sees someone that she thinks that is cool. Seeing that in someone so small is so pure. Like, there's no thought about what anyone else thinks. And I wish that for us all at some points in our lives.
Absolutely. I think that's the goal, to kind of get back to where we started, with all the like knowledge and joy and community and friendship and love that we have, and skill in whatever you've dedicated your lives to, but joy, just to remember what brings you joy, and that can change forever. That's a good thing. It doesn't need to stay the same, but how are you going to know if you're not trying new things or kind of allowing yourself to breathe in that? It goes against everything that we're living now, which is, hustle, 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 hustle. That's not my dream space.
Do you find yourself experimenting with other forms? Do you crave to somatically sit at a wheel and potter? Do you want to paint out the colours that you hear when you're songwriting? Like, does a kind of quality and texture like start to clash, being such a creative being?
Yeah, and I think I've started to lean into it like way more. A couple years ago, I started pottery and I did a couple courses, and then I started doing it by myself, and that one taught me like a really interesting thing about creativity. When you want to see the inside of a pot, or you want to like check basically, like, did you do what you wanted to do? Like, are the walls thick enough? Like, I want to see how this is going, or whatever. You cut the pot in half and obviously like check, but the pot is done, once you've cut it in half. However, putting those two halves together, re-wedging the clay, making a new piece from that, or deciding that, I don't know, you don't like it, or you're like, oh, I really wanted to make this, I made it, now I want to make something else. You can choose to not keep the original thing that you made and make it out of that. I think there's something really important about understanding that not everything you make has to be seen or valued, or this is not for anyone else if you don't choose it to be. And I think we kind of get wrapped up in this world of everything you do, every piece of enjoyment you have has to be turned into something that you can make money from. And I just rebuke it. I don't want that. I think it's quite damaging, and obviously, like, we have to live. But I think it taught me, that practice within pottery taught me that I could write many, many, many things, which I did for the last album, and no one has to see anything. I can choose 10 out of 100 ideas or 10 out of 50 ideas, and I could go back to those other ideas, or I could put them in a drawer and wait 10 years to delve back into them. It's this, I want to come from a creative place of abundance rather than a place of hurried lack, or this is the timeline, so it must run. Says who? So yeah, there would definitely be a place to, make your pottery, make your ceramics, glaze your ceramics. That's a whole other creative practice. I paint sometimes, like, just anything. I'm quite drawn to a lot of things that I like have no experience or business be doing, but like, that's fine. And I get very inspired by watching other people present their vision and their narrative as well. So I definitely feel super encouraged to explore the multidisciplinary path of life. Just because you haven't done it before, or doesn't mean you can't try or learn or meet someone who knows way more about it than you do, and you get to work on it together. That's the beauty of gathering and collaborating and making something. At the end of the day, it's all about that.
The generosity of this dream space is felt and allows us all to open up to creativity, play and collaboration.
Absolutely.
And that does go against our late capitalist, the way that we have to categorize in order to value, to set a tone, to conceptualize, logically. And it's so Euro-patriarchal to have to fit into boxes. Whereas if you are a multicultural person, from what that means, in terms of maybe your heritage, but also the culture that you live within, and that changes forms, that's interwoven with past, present, future, our contemporaries, and traveling the world, it becomes so exciting to not limit ourselves. It opens the roads and it creates new maps of what we deem as successful. And that dream space is a kind dream space for us all.
I think we need it. I think we need a bit more kindness in the world of art. I think it has become quite a weird, judgmental place. And I think everything we can do to bring some of that like magic and authenticity and play back, opposing the kind of meritocracy and the judgment and the commercialization of it and narrowing of what makes art so beautiful, which is different viewpoints and perspectives and ways of making everything. I think we need more kindness.
So I'm feeling like I can really play here in this dream space. Is there an absence of judgment that can help me nurture that space of just giving it a go?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think judging something before it's even happened or begun doesn't work for everyone. And I say that because some people thrive off of it, but I'm not really one of those people who thrives off of like beating my creation before it's begun, like beating it down into, oh, it's just like nothing. But I think it's important to make it, create it, do it, be about it, and then you get to look at it, edit it, refine it, try something else afterwards. But I think if you're kind of stuck in this loop of pre-perfectionism, then you've kind of like stuck your feet in the sand before you're trying to run. And I don't think that's fair to your wild abandon, which is what I think you need sometimes when you're just like, I want to make something.
Have there been those moments, those formative light bulb experiences in your past that have led you into this space of being part dream, part reality, so open, so collaborative, so ready to improvise? Like, what has it been up until now that has got you to this moment?
I think two spaces really stick out to me. The first one being one of the groups that Nikki Yo ran at Camden Music. I literally remember the first time I joined her group. I was like 11 or 12. I hadn't been playing the saxophone for that long. And I went in the morning to one of the groups, and it was, I remember it being in the basement of the music house. I get into this room, there's like maybe 6 people there. They're all like a lot older than me and have been playing a lot longer than me. But I just felt very welcome, even though I was completely out of my depth. But yeah, Nikki,
I bet you were so cute.
I was so out of my depth. It was ridiculous.
11-year-old Nubya turning up in this room with a saxophone. Yes.
It was a lot. They were all like, had been playing for jazz for a few years. They were in there like Betty Carter warm-up, which is like playing a blues up a semitone. Each person goes up a semitone when you're all taking a chorus. And it's just even trying to remember where you are in the thing. Plus, when it gets to you, you're like, I'm lost. Anyway, I remember that so clearly because even though I had no idea what was going on, Nikki was just very encouraging. She was like giving me little pointers here and there and just encouraging me to play and let go of this fear of doing something wrong. The other formative moment I had in my younger days was the first time I went to Tomorrow's Warriors. I was 17, I think, 16, 17, and I found out about a blues masterclass workshop with Abraham Wilson. It was in the Violet Room in the basement of South Bank Centre. They were super welcoming. It was it was open. It was free. I walked into the space and it was just a lot of like really friendly and encouraging young black people, and the most like young black women I'd ever seen playing instruments, which isn't saying a lot because there there wasn't like loads, but there was more than I'd experienced in my life. And yeah, everyone was just like really friendly. I was like quite shy, and quiet, but also just like, oh, this is really cool to be here. Meeting everyone. Gary Crosby runs Tomorrow's Warriors with Janine, and yeah, it was just, I felt safe. It felt like a home. It felt like, yeah, I really want to come back. And they were really encouraging. They were like, oh, make sure you come back. They were like, oh, you know, what do you do? Where do you, you know, what's your way into music? You know, you interested in this? And it was a really good session, and it felt good, you know. So I continued coming back, and that really led me to most of the people that I still collaborate with now, and so many bands over the last 16 years now since that time, that day. So I'm really, really grateful for that ongoing presence in my life. And yeah, they've been fighting the good fight for a long time for young Black people, specifically young Black women. I felt super comfortable, and I met some lifelong friends there.
I think it's really important to pledge, from my perspective, as somebody that wants to platform, create, conversate with people such as yourself, but to like look at where all this comes from, you know, and to keep championing and offer support so that we don't lose diverse creatives.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder.
It is getting harder and harder, and it means that like everyone's like, oh, you know, there's a boom of young Black musicians and young Black musicians who are women playing instruments. Like that's all, it doesn't just happen by accident. That's fostered and encouraged, and instruments are provided, masterclasses are provided. You learn from your peers and you learn from the generations above you, so you have a real inspiration loop going, and opportunities through that.
It's like rebounding, you know, representation, support, commitment is where a community really begins to thrive.
Absolutely. Commitment is a big one, you know, and that was, you didn't have to like force anyone. You know, there was a like, oh, I can't wait for this weekend. You get to hang out with people your age who also listen to Sonny Rollins. You know how rare that is? You know, like, and want to go and see a gig in a pub basement with like 10 other people. You know, like it's quite niche, and I'm grateful to have the space to explore that and build upon that and make our own way within that.
I just feel really thankful to be in Nubya's dream space and company in such a liminal and open, bountiful way. She gave us all abundance, and she gave us free thinking, interdisciplines. And I found that very inspiring, hopeful, and personally, in terms of my own creative practice and yearn for collaboration, it was very empowering. So I loved that, and I love Nubya. I'm Gemma Cairney. Thank you for listening. Join us again next time for a wander through another artist's dream space. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast, and please shout about it. Be generous, share it with whoever you think might enjoy it or get something from it in your chosen community. Your support really does mean a lot. It helps us to keep on dreaming. And if you can't wait until the next episode, then you can head to Factory International's website and find more creative content on Factory Plus. If this is your first taste of the Dream Space universe, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next time. Before then, though, you can treat yourself to some quality dreaming with one of our previous episodes. There's plenty out there. Dream Space was hosted by me, Gemma Cairney, and this episode was produced by Emily Dix, with sound design by Solomon King and music by Carmel Smickersgill and Andrew P. M. Hunt. The executive producer is Dan Jackson, and this is a reduced listening production for Factory International, curated by Scott Simoniti and Alex Mannion Jones. Until next time, laters.